Caught my spouse in bed with my best friend. Saturday used to be our lazy day, the kind where the light sneaks through the blinds in soft stripes. You take your time leaving the bed, and the whole day feels like a warm bath you never quite get out of. I woke up that morning to the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the click purr of the ceiling fan. The house still smelled faintly of the cinnamon candle I'd blown out at midnight, and there was a patch of sunlight on the hardwood floor that made the dust motes look like a snow globe. The place felt soft around the edges, like it was still dreaming. I remember thinking we had everything I ever wanted. I was in a shirt I'd stolen from him years ago, faded navy with a print of some long-ago concert, and I could hear the pigeons on the power line outside. Ordinary, boring, perfect. He, my husband of 4 years, was already up. I heard the Keurig stuttering downstairs and the muffled cough he gets in the morning. I rolled over and checked my phone, and it was lighting up with a notification. Bun run? From my best friend, Claire, followed by a bagel emoji. She always sends food emojis for actual food, as if we're 5. She'd been my person since sophomore year when she sat next to me in a data visualization class and drew graphs that looked like works of art while I tried to keep the axes straight. We were that cliché. Shared sweaters, cried in bathrooms, celebratory margaritas, and emergency cereal shopping at midnight when one of us couldn't sleep. She promised me we'd grow old and compare wrinkles. She said she wanted to be honorary aunt when we had kids. She said, "We're a triangle, you know? You, me, and him. Unbreakable." "Sure, carb queen," I typed back. "Come by after 10? I'll be home all day." I stretched, bone by bone, and threw the covers off. When I padded out onto the landing, the stairs creaked at the second step like they always do. Habit makes you identify a house by its flaws. The kitchen was warm with coffee smell, with a little curl of steam rising from his mug. He wore his favorite threadbare college t-shirt, the one with a mysterious bleach stain shaped like Florida, and he had that look he gets when he's already moved on to planning his next 3 tasks. Focused brow, half-listening eyes. "Morning," I said, and kissed the back of his neck. He flinched a little, then relaxed. He never used to flinch. "Hey," he said, turning. He kissed me on the head, like I was a kid. "You were out. I figured I'd let you sleep." "Thanks," I said. "Claire's stopping by later." His eyes flickered. Maybe I imagined it. He sipped his coffee, careful, cool. "I think I'm gonna head to the gym around 11. Might be back by 1? We could go to the park or something." I noticed there were 2 coffee cups on the counter, one full, one rinsed. He must have had one already, or maybe he just rinsed yesterday's cup. There was a tiny smear of lipstick on the rim of the rinsed cup, coral pink. My stomach gave a tiny twist that I told myself was silly. I wear that shade. I tell myself I left it there. But I haven't been wearing lipstick much lately, not for Saturdays. There's a baby blue scrunchie on the dining chair. Mine? I thought maybe, but mine is in the dish by the keys. My brain logged these things and smoothed over them like a hand on a wrinkled sheet. "Hungry?" he asked. "Always." We made eggs. He sliced strawberries, efficient as a machine. I watched his hands, the way the knuckle of his right index finger has a pale scar from when he cut it on a mandolin like an idiot last year. Once, little things like scars felt like secrets we owned together. Now they felt like proof of time passing in ways I wasn't measuring. We ate at the island, and I told him about a friend from college I ran into last week at the pharmacy, about how she has twins now and looked like she'd been awake since 2003. He laughed. He told me a story about his boss mispronouncing cachet during a presentation. I laughed. It all looked right from the outside. The sun made a stained glass pattern through the leaves outside and laid it across the kitchen table. He reached across and brushed a crumb from my cheek. My heart, responding to muscle memory, squeezed in the way it always did when he did small, tender things. It's strange. The way your body can love someone even when your brain is standing by the door with packed bags. After breakfast, he went upstairs to shower. I ran a finger around the lipstick ring again, trying to convince myself that if I rubbed hard enough, it would disappear. I rinsed it and watched the pink swirl around the drain. The scrunchie felt rough and cheap in my hands. Not my brand. Not my color. I set it on the counter and told myself to stop being paranoid. Claire is always dropping little things in my house. She uses my lipstick. We share shampoo. My brain kept offering me kind, plausible edits. At 10, Claire texted, "Running late. Sorry, long story. Save me a seat on the couch." I sent back a heart and a laughing emoji. I could already hear her. Breathless apology, carrying a paper bag of still warm bagels and some fancy schmear, handing me coffee she knows I drink with too much sugar. The predictability of friendship is one of its softest parts. He came downstairs in a towel. Water clung to his hair in dark, glittering strands. He smelled like cedar. My toes curled inside my slippers. An old reflex. He looked at the clock like he was waiting for something. "Okay, I'm headed out," he said. He sounded out of breath like he'd run down the stairs, though he hadn't. He hugged me, too tight. The hug of a man trying to memorize, or trying to make a performance convincing. "What are you doing at the gym?" I asked. He kissed the top of my head again. "Leg day," he said, grimacing playfully. He grabbed his keys. He left. I watched him walk down the driveway. The sun caught on the back of his neck. He has a tiny constellation of freckles there, like the Big Dipper. He didn't text when he got there. Usually he sent me a picture of a treadmill, a joking "sent help." I cleaned the kitchen, quick, methodical, like cleaning was a way of keeping the world in order. I threw the blue scrunchie in the junk drawer. I made the couch look presentable, fluffed the pillows into submission. I poured a glass of water, then poured it down the sink. I checked my phone. 10:25. Claire. Be there in 5. Then. Actually 10. I'm sorry. A frowny face. At 10:40, I heard a car door slam in front of the house. I went to the window and peeked between the blinds. It was Claire's car. My best friend's little teal hatchback with the cracked bumper sticker that says, "Nevertheless, she caffeinated." She sat in the driver's seat, looking at herself in the visor mirror, dabbing on lip balm. Coral pink. She put on sunglasses, took them off, put them on again. She breathed, visible even from here, a long inhale. Then she got out and grabbed a tote. My heart did a small, startled animal thing in my chest. I opened the door before she could knock. "You're late?" I said, smiling. "Don't hate me," she said, swinging the tote onto her shoulder. She was pretty, in that effortless way she always is, even with her hair in a messy bun. She breezed inside like she belonged, because she did. They were out of the good everything bagels, so I went to the place 2 neighborhoods over. Sacrifice. We hugged. Her skin was warm. She smelled like her body spray, citrus and something sugary. When she pulled back, her eyes flicked behind me like she was looking for him. Just for a second. It was like we both noticed it and pretended not to. My stomach tightened more. "Stop," I told myself. "Don't ruin everything by overthinking." She looked tired, her under eyes a little blue. She put the bag on the counter and took out a schmear that she knows I like. She opened the fridge like she'd never stopped coming here. I loved that familiarity once. It feels like home. Now it felt like a series of keys sliding into locks I didn't know were there. We sat on the couch with our legs tucked under us. She asked about my job. I asked about hers. We touched on the usual, a guy she dated last year who keeps sending weird late-night texts, my mother and whether she's going to behave at Christmas, the new bar that opened down the street. She picked at her cuticles like she does when she's anxious. She looked at her phone a lot. "Do you want to go for a walk instead?" she asked at one point, too casually. "It's so nice out. To the park?" He was going to... Actually, he said he might be back around 1. Something passed over her face. A flicker, like a shadow of a bird. She took a big bite of bagel to fill the space. "Right," she said, through crumbs. "Cool. The red flags, if I look back, weren't even flags. They were small colored threads woven into everything. The night we had game night a few weeks ago, and she insisted on helping him do the dishes after, the two of them standing shoulder to shoulder at the sink. Their forearms touching occasionally in a way that seemed like 2 magnets noticing one another. The way he laughed too hard at her jokes. The way she started wearing those little silk camis to casual things with a sweater, like a secret tucked in. The time she and I were on the couch and he came in from a run, flushed, sweaty, and she looked away like his body was something to be looked away from. And then, Days later, she texted me a link to a marathon training plan for him unasked. I thought at the time, God, my best friend loves my husband, like a brother. I thought at the time, we are so lucky. I got up to get napkins. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. I wouldn't have normally looked. That is a thing I am proud of, or I was. Trust has been my currency. But it buzzed again and the screen lit up, and there on the pixelated rectangle of my living room was my husband's name, just his first name. Not husband, not a cute nickname. His real name, plain as a church, 3 dots underneath. Then, you hear? A bubble moved. She'll be chill. And then, door? My body cooled from the inside out. There's no other way to say it. I went where the napkins were, like I was playing a game where you list the objects in your house. I opened the drawer. I closed it. I could hear blood in my ears. I stood there with my hands braced on the counter and looked at the tile grout and thought, I'm going to faint. I didn't. I turned back around and walked slow, like I was trying not to startle a deer. I sat down on the edge of the couch and watched her pretend she hadn't seen the phone light up. She took a sip of coffee. Her hand shook against the white paper cup. Her nails were painted pale blue. I thought of the scrunchie in the drawer. Who's that? I asked. My voice sounded like someone else's voice. Calm, distant, curious. She looked at me. Her face did something complicated. What? Your phone. It's blowing up. Oh, work, she said, a beat too long. She picked up the phone and set it face down. Right, I said. In the movies, betrayal arrives like a slap. In real life, it's a slow seep. Water under a door. It had already started to pool around my feet. We sat there for a moment. The street outside was quiet, except for a skateboard clacking along and a dog barking 3 houses down. My house's refrigerator hummed, then clicked. She licked cream cheese from her thumb with a cat-like little swipe. I need to tell you something, she said suddenly, like a diver deciding when to jump. Her voice was small. I felt it in my bones, the way you feel thunder before you hear it. Okay, I said. She looked at our hands, mine on my knee, hers on our mug, and then at the doorway. She took a breath. She opened her mouth. The door to our garage opened. We both jumped. His footsteps heavy, like a weird echo of every other time he came home. He called, "Hey!" like it was any Saturday. Like he'd forgotten his wallet maybe, like he'd never left. He walked into the living room, stopping dead when he saw us both there. He wasn't wearing his gym clothes. He was wearing the gray sweater I gave him last Christmas, the one that makes his shoulders look broad and safe. His hair wasn't sweaty. He smelled like cedar and something else. Shampoo? No, hotel soap. I don't know how I knew that, I just did. And then, like choreography they hadn't practiced but somehow knew, they both stood at the same time. Claire stepped forward, then back, then forward again. Her eyes were wide, almost luminous. He looked at her, and then at me, and then at the space between us like it was a cliff. What are you doing here? I asked him. My mouth was so dry my lips stuck to my teeth. He looked at his watch like that would explain everything. He opened and closed his right hand, a nervous habit. I came back, he said, which was not an answer. We need to talk, he said at the exact same moment that she said, I have to tell you something. They glanced at each other, and there it was, something that passed between them like a wire. It doesn't matter what you believe in, you know electricity when you see it. He sat on the ottoman because he was always too polite to take someone else's seat. He was breathing hard like he'd run a block. He looked at the stupid plant in the corner we always kill and bring back. He looked at me finally, and his face softened the way it does when he's telling me something hard. He bit his lip. He has this tiny notch in his upper lip. It went white under his teeth. I screwed up, he said. The words dropped into the room like marbles, scattered everywhere, rolling under furniture, lodged under the couch where we would find them months later in the dust. Time did a strange, slipping thing, grainy, like a video with buffering issues. I heard myself ask, "What?" like I was prompting him in a play. My own voice sounded boring. The pigeons outside were still on the wire, maybe. The fridge hummed, the world continued to be the world, and I felt like I was being unstitched. He took a breath, his eyes filled with tears. He has those honest, stupid eyes that always made me trust him. He looked at me like a child asking not to be scolded. "It happened once," he said, and then, "No, that's not true. It's been—" His jaw worked. He shook his head hard like he was shaking water out of his ear. "It's been a few weeks," he said. "I was going to tell you. I swear to God, I was going to tell you. I just—" He stopped. He looked at Claire. She had her hands pressed together like she was praying. "I love you," she said to me. "You know that. I love you so much. This was never— We never meant—" She trailed off and her mouth shook. She's not a crier. In college, she would slap her face when she felt tears coming, furious with her own tear ducts. Her eyes were glassy now. I thought of the lipstick, the scrunchie, the laughs, the shared dish soap, the way they never touched in front of me, but the air between them had become a membrane. I thought of my wedding day, her toast, where she told the story of how we met and cried because she believed in us more than she believed in anything. I thought of her hand steadying mine when I put on my veil. I thought of the night my dad died, years before I met my husband, when she put me in her bed and laid a hand on my back for hours so I could sleep without falling apart. I thought, nothing makes sense. I thought, everything makes too much sense. "I need you to say it," I said. I put my coffee down very carefully, like it might explode. "I need to hear the words. Say what you did." They were both quiet for a long time. He nodded, slowly, like he was giving himself permission to speak. "We slept together," he said. The words slid into the room and hung there, heavy and obscene. "We've been sleeping together," he corrected. He squeezed his eyes shut and pressed the heels of his palms into them like he was trying to press back his brain. "I'm so sorry. His voice broke. He made a noise in his throat I have never heard from a grown man. It was ugly and human, and I hated him for making it in my living room. Claire sat down like her knees had given out. She put her head in her hands. "It wasn't supposed to be this," she said, as if that mattered. I don't know when. We didn't plan it." She looked up at me, her face raw. "I love you," she said again, like that was a piece of life preserver we could all hold on to together. "You love me and you're sleeping with my husband?" I said. It didn't sound like a question because it wasn't. It sounded like a math problem even a child could solve. Everything afterward is smeared like a watercolor left in the rain. I know I stood up and felt unsteady. I know I asked them how many times. I know they said a number that made me dizzy and then said, "It doesn't matter," and then said another number. I know Claire said, "It's not about you." And I laughed. A horrible, broken laugh that startled all of us. I know he said it was a mistake, and then he said, no, it was a series of mistakes. Like that was more honest. I know I asked where. I know I asked if they used protection. I know he said yes, and there was a small, mean part of my brain grateful for that logistical consideration, even as the rest of me felt like it was floating off the floor. I know Claire sobbed in a way I've never seen her sob. I know I sat down. I know I stood up again. I know I went to the sink and filled a glass with water and watched it overflow as if it was happening in a painting, and I didn't stop it until the cold touched my fingers. They kept saying my name, like if they said it enough times they could anchor me. It felt invasive, the way their mouths made my name. I wanted to collect it from them and put it in a box where they couldn't touch it. I asked when was the last time. I asked why. The big why didn't have an answer that made any sense. He said he felt lonely, even with me, that he didn't know how to tell me we were drifting, that he missed feeling desired and she made him feel electric. Claire said she felt seen, that he understood her in a way she didn't expect, that she hated herself every time. They said they tried to stop. They said it never felt right, and they did it anyway. They said a lot of things that, when you look at them in the light, don't add up to anything except two people choosing themselves at my expense. I heard a neighbor's car alarm go off, throbbing in the background like a second heartbeat. It stopped. Everything felt like a metaphor I didn't want to be in. "I want you to get out," I said eventually. The words came into my mouth from someplace far away and tasted like metal. "Both of you. Now." They looked at each other and then at me like children caught cheating on a test behind the teacher's back. He said, "Please," and sat forward, hands out, like he could cradle the word between them. "Please, can we—" I said, "Get out," I said, and I didn't raise my voice because I didn't need to. My voice has that low, cold thing it does when I'm done being accommodating. I saw it hit him like a blast of winter air. Claire stood up first. She made a move toward me, like maybe a reflex to hug. When I stepped back, she flinched like I'd slapped her, though I hadn't touched her. She nodded. "I'm sorry," she said, and her face crumpled in a way I didn't think possible. "I know that doesn't mean anything right now. I am so sorry. I love you." The words sounded broken, stupid, pointless, like a nursery rhyme in a funeral home. She left. She left her bag on the chair and had to come back for it, and her hands fumbled with the strap. It was almost funny, if anything about this could be funny. She closed the door softly, like not slamming it could fix anything. He stayed. He sat there with both hands pressed against his chest, like he was trying to hold himself in. "I'll sleep at my brother's," he said, "or a hotel. Whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. I'll quit my job if I have to. I'll cut her off. I'll cut her off." The laugh that came out of me was seismic. I thought it might crack the drywall. "I'm not giving you instructions on how to be a person." He cried. He put his head in his hands that way men do when they're trying not to embarrass themselves by crying. He said my name again. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. I wanted to never hear him say my name again. And I wanted him to keep saying it until everything made sense. Grief can be contradictory like that. It makes you a bad roommate to yourself. "Leave," I said again, and the word felt like I had picked up a heavy thing and moved it. He did. He stood, hesitated, like he might touch me, then thought better of it and walked out the door. He didn't slam it either. The house swallowed the silence he left behind. I stood in my living room and listened to the absence. It's loud, the absence. I could hear birds and cars and the distant clacking of that skateboarder circling the block again. I could hear my own breath, shorter than I wanted it to be. My hands were shaking. I remember thinking absurdly, I need to mop the floor where the water overflowed. There will be water spots. I will find them later and think of this moment. I should mop. Instead, I sat down on the rug and pressed my forehead to my knees. The carpet smelled like dog, even though we don't have a dog. I think it's left over from the previous owners, like the household's ghosts that aren't ours. I felt like I couldn't get enough air. I counted to 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Box breathing, the therapist taught me in a context that now seems laughable. Anxiety about a presentation at work. It helped, though. My heart slowed. The shaking turned into a steady tremor. I got up and went to the kitchen and poured a small glass of white wine because I didn't know what else to do with my hands, and because the bottle was there, and because, once in a while, the small rituals matter. I took a sip, and it tasted like soap. I set it down. I didn't pick it back up. It's almost comical, the to-do list that asserted itself like a pushy coworker. Call my sister. Cancel dinner with his parents tomorrow. Find a box for his things. Change the locks. Can we afford a locksmith? Find the spare keys. Check the calendar for things we need to cancel or move. Email an attorney? We had a joint appointment for the dentist next week. I pictured us in side-by-side chairs and wanted to scream. My brain, hungry for order, made lists. My heart, raw, wanted nothing. The doorbell rang. I flinched so hard, I spilled the wine. I froze on the threshold between kitchen and living room like prey. Then I walked slow to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Claire. She had her sunglasses off, and her eyes were an alarming red. She was holding a little cardboard box, the kind I've used to carry muffins to a picnic. She knocked again, gentle, like she might knock on a sleeping baby's door. I opened the door a crack, the chain still on. I don't know why I put the chain on. We live in the kind of neighborhood where you recognize all the dogs. But suddenly the world felt unsafe. "What?" I said, and I hated how shaky I sounded. I wanted to sound like a glacier. She held up the box like an offering. "Your grandmother's ring," she said. The words jolted through me. I blinked. She swallowed. "You left it at my place last month, remember? When we tried on your old outfits for that clothing swap. You said you're going to pick it up, and then you forgot. I've been keeping it safe. I figure you should have it." You should have anything that's yours. I didn't want there to be anything that could be used as collateral for. She trailed off. She held the box out. Her hands were steady in a way they hadn't been earlier. I am going to leave town for a bit, she said. I won't be at the studio next week. I'll give you space. I know I don't deserve to ask you for anything, but if you could text me to let me know you're safe. Not now, whenever. Please. I looked down at the chain on the door, at the gap where her face hovered, a slice of a person. I looked at the box, a neat little square that could hold something delicate or something poisonous. I unlatched the chain and opened the door wide. She looked surprised, like she'd expected me to speak through the crack indefinitely. I took the box. Inside, there it was, my grandmother's thin gold ring with a tiny pearl that has a hairline crack through it. My grandmother wore it to dance halls in the 1950s and would tell me with a wicked smile that men twirled her like she weighed nothing. I wear it sometimes when I need courage, like a talisman. The sight of it made my chest hurt like someone had put a fist inside it. Thank you, I said, because the muscle memory of manners is strong. My voice was a thread. She nodded. Her eyes filled again. She wiped them brusquely, like she was angry at the tears. I know you hate me, she said. I hate me. That doesn't help you, She stopped. She looked at the rug like it might answer. You saved my life, she said. In college? When I couldn't get out of bed and I thought the world would end if I did. I want to say I didn't mean to hurt you, but I did. I chose this and did it anyway. I don't even know who I was with him. I'm not asking you to ever forgive me. I will love you for the rest of my life, even if that has to be from far away. There were 1,000 things I could say, an essay's worth, a thesis, a scream. Instead, I said, you need to go. And it came out gentle, like a doctor delivering bad news. She nodded once. Okay, she said. She stepped backward. Please text me, she said again, and I wanted to throw something at her. I closed the door. Her footsteps on the porch boards were quiet. Her car door clicked, and then the engine. The house got bigger and emptier. I slid down the door until I was sitting on the mat with the ring box on my lap. It was almost 1. I had had plans less than an hour ago. Bagels, maybe a walk, maybe a nap, maybe the park. My phone was a small rectangle of betrayal and logistics. There were new messages. One from my sister. Brunch tomorrow? Please say yes or I'll tell Mom you're ducking us. I stared at the screen. I wrote yes and then erased it. I typed no and erased it. I typed, can I call? And just hit send. She sent back a question mark and then a million question marks. My sister's love language. I didn't call. Not yet. He texted. He said, I'm so sorry. Please let me come get some things. I'll be quick. He said, I'm at a hotel. He sent a picture of a key card on a white comforter like proof. Like that mattered. He said, I love you. And I set the phone face down like it had burned me. I went upstairs to our bedroom and stood in the doorway. The bed was made. The duvet smooth. One of my earrings was on the dresser where I had taken it off last night and missed the dish. The window was open and the breeze moved the curtains gently, like breath. It was my favorite room in the world yesterday. It felt like a crime scene now. I opened the closet and stared at his side, at the row of hangers with his button-downs, blue, blue, white, blue, and my stomach roiled. I shut the door on them. It closed with a magnetic click. I went to the window and watched the world outside go about its business like a traitor. A woman across the street was watering her plants in leggings, her hair in an aggressive topknot. A man jogged by with a dog and a bandana. The normalcy was obscene. How dare they? I sat on the floor and called my sister. I said, he cheated on me, and my voice warped on the word in a way that made me almost laugh. With Claire, I added, and then I did laugh, a jagged, feral sound. My sister swore, real swears, loud ones, a stream of expletives that would have made a sailor blush. The relief of hearing someone else say the words was huge. It pinned me back to earth. She asked where I was. She asked if I was alone. She said she was getting in the car. I told her not to. I asked for an hour. I said I needed to breathe. She asked to call Mom. I said no. She said she'd be there in 75 minutes if I didn't text otherwise. We are not huggers, my sister and me, but I have never wanted her arms around me more. After we hung up, I went into the bathroom and turned on the sink and watched the water run for a long time. I washed my face, even though there was nothing on it. I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't know who I was looking at. My eyes looked older. There was a toothpaste smudge near the faucet. I wiped it with my sleeve because apparently I am still me, even now, and smudges bother me. I sat on the edge of the tub. There was a rust stain I keep meaning to address. The house is always asking for small maintenance. I can't give it the maintenance it needs. I can't give anything what it needs. He texted again. Can I come at 3? I'll call first. I'll stay in the hall if that's easier. I won't make it hard. I'm sorry. Please. The idea of him in the hallway made my throat close. I typed, leave the key under the mat. I'll put your stuff in trash bags. I erased it. It felt petty. It felt correct. The personality of my anger is new to me. I tried it on like a jacket. It fit too well. I put my phone face down again and went downstairs and got the heavy contractor bags from under the sink. I pulled one out, and it unfurled with a sound like a wing. The smell of plastic hit me and I nearly gagged. I put it away. There is more than one way to draw a boundary. I am learning. Quickly. I sat at the dining table and wrote a list with a pen whose ink skips. Get tested. Therapist. Lawyer? Change locks? Cancel joint Spotify? It's almost funny. The mundanity of betrayal. You still have to decide about utilities. You still have to feed yourself dinner. The day doesn't care about the crater in your life. The sun keeps going down. I don't know what to do about Claire. I don't know what to do about the fact that my roughest times have always had her shaped into them. I don't know what it means to lose a husband and a best friend in the same hour. It feels like a structural collapse. The two pillars holding up the roof of my life just gave way. The dust is still in the air. I can't see how bad the damage is. I can only feel the weight of it. And yet, there were strange little things that glinted through like stubborn weeds in concrete. My neighbor texted to ask if I wanted her to drop off soup she made too much of. I said no, and then I said yes. My sister's 75 minutes turned into 60, and she showed up with her messy bun and her flannel and a hug that cracked something open. She didn't ask for the story right away. She sat on the floor with me and looked at the wall. We breathed. I told her after a while that I felt like I was falling. She said, I'm right here. And she was. She asked if I wanted to have a drink to calm down, and I poured us each a little bourbon over ice, and I took one sip, and it warmed the hollow behind my sternum where a lot of cold had been installed earlier. We put our feet up on the ottoman he had sat on, and I didn't burst into flames. My phone vibrated where I had set it silently on the table. He sent a longer message. He said he was talking to his brother. He told me he would do individual therapy. He told me he would do couples therapy if I wanted. He told me he would never speak to Claire again. He told me he was sitting in his car outside the hotel because the room smelled like cigarettes and old carpet and he couldn't stand it. He told me he felt like he was going to throw up. He told me he loved me and he hated himself. He told me this could be a chapter, not the whole book. He told me everything a man in a movie says when he wants absolution. It felt cruel, the way his words insisted on being human. I typed back, do not come here tonight. My fingers were steady. He replied, okay. He replied, I'm so sorry. He replied, I know that doesn't help. And then he stopped. The quiet from him was its own sound. When the soup arrived from my neighbor, it was in a container that used to hold yogurt. It made me cry more than I've cried all day. That someone would think I was worth feeding. I sat on the kitchen floor with my sister and ate it with a spoon, and we watched 2 episodes of a stupid show about people baking cakes that look like other things, and for 30 minutes at a time, my brain was mercifully occupied by someone making a bag that looks like a croissant. It felt like cheating on my grief. It also felt like breathing. We do what we can. It's nighttime now. The house sounds different at night. You learn this when you move in somewhere new. You relearn it when the space inside your life changes shape. The fan clicks. The heater makes that settling noise in the ducts like an old woman sighing. I'm in the guest room because the idea of sleeping in our bed makes my skin ache. I brought my grandmother's ring with me and put it on the bedside table like a lighthouse. My sister offered to stay, and I said yes, and then I said no, and then I said yes again. She's on the couch with a blanket that doesn't match anything. I can hear her tapping at her phone gently in a way that makes me love her so much I could pass out. He texted twice more. Good night, and then, I wish I could rewind. I didn't respond. I learned today that there are muscles for silence I haven't used in years. They are sore. I keep thinking of a night years ago when the three of us went camping. We were drunk on boxed wine, and the stars were so many it felt like the sky had mold. We sat around the fire and told stories, and at one point, he dozed with his head on my lap, while Claire threw little sticks into the flames and said we were, all of us, galaxies. She meant it as a compliment. I keep thinking of that and feeling sick. And then part of me thinks, maybe I am, actually. Maybe there is something inside me that burns separately from them. Maybe this isn't the end of me. Maybe it's, I don't know, a violent re-entry. It's both. It's all. I'm swinging between rage and grief, and then there are moments when I look at the plate I forgot to put in the dishwasher last night and I think, oh, right. The little life continues. I don't know what tomorrow will look like. I don't know if I'll call a lawyer or a locksmith first. I don't know if I'll be someone who forgives or someone who flees. I don't know if I will ever let either of them say my name again. I don't know how to handle the fact that all the pictures of my life have her in them. Her face right next to mine, our cheeks touching, our eyes crinkled, our joy braided with this betrayal like those friendship bracelets we made at 13. Do I cut her out? Do I throw them away? Do I keep them and learn to look? I do know this. I asked for space. I drew a line. I am still here in my house with my crooked stairs and my humming fridge and the stupid plant in the corner doing its best to stay alive. I am writing this so that my brain doesn't eat itself, and so that someone who has been here can tell me whether the room stops spinning. I am writing this because I need a witness. I am writing this because I am not waiting anymore for the easy Saturday that was promised to me. I am writing this because I am learning that a triangle can be broken, even if you thought it was unbreakable. I am writing this because my hands want to hold anything other than what they're holding. It's 1 a.m. I can hear someone's music 2 houses down, faint. I can smell the last of the cinnamon candle, or maybe I'm imagining it. The bed in the guest room has different dips and hollows. It will take some getting used to. Everything will. My sister just texted from the couch. I'm awake if you need. I think I do need. I think I will go lie next to her on the too short couch and breathe in sync for a while, the way we did when we were children afraid of thunderstorms. I think I will leave the kitchen light on like a runway in case I need to go there in the dark. He asked if he could come by tomorrow to get his things. I didn't answer. When I close my eyes, I see their bodies overlapping in all the ways I don't want. When I open them, the ceiling has a hairline crack I'd never noticed. It looks like a river on a map. The house is full of hairline cracks. So am I. Maybe we do not fall apart so much as we fracture. Maybe we can be mended. Maybe we are always a little broken. Maybe that's okay. I don't know. I don't have a bow to tie around this. I have the ring in the box, and my sister on the couch, and the smell of soup in the kitchen, and a list on the table, and the promise of morning, which will come whether I want it to or not. If anyone has done this, if anyone has renamed the rooms of their house, if anyone has learned to love their own breath again after their 2 favorite lungs betrayed them, tell me how you did it. Tell me what to do about the photos. Tell me whether I should insist he come when I'm not here or if that's cowardice or wisdom. Tell me whether it's weaker to forgive or to leave. Tell me how to stop seeing him in every object and her in every corner. Tell me what to do with the blue scrunchie in my junk drawer. Tell me if you ever stop trying to rewrite the morning from the first paragraph, the one with the sunlight on the floor and the coffee hum and the dust like a snow globe. TLDR. Discovered my husband has been sleeping with my best friend for weeks. Kicked them both out, and now I'm sitting with the shock, unsure what to do next or what tomorrow looks like.